Hey there, Dango Stu here. Today's video is about doing some sound insulation in the engine bay, doing an outlet for the bilge pump, and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. A couple of videos ago when we installed the fridge, Leon and I were very excited, cold beer on the boat, but there's one other big advantage too. We now have the ability to store potential food. So let's put a prawn on the hook and get a line out before we start. I'll just pop 3 or 4 in some water and put the rest back in the freezer. The other time I had just the big mullet fill it out. The idea there is you're looking for like a big mulloway. It's a fish, I think minimum legal 70 centimetres, so they're pretty big fish. The idea is you throw it out, you leave it there, you work. You either catch something big or you catch nothing at all, and when you're working, that's kind of ideal. Saves you sort of being interrupted all the time. I've only got those prawns today, so I'm going to put them on a smaller hook, a lighter line, and probably looking for things like brim, flathead, that kind of fish. Around here, probably more brim than flathead, but we'll see what happens. Okay, step 1 is to obviously go and get this insulation, which I've already got, but I'll show you the process so you get an idea of what's involved working on the mooring with this little tender. It's probably fair to say the inflatable isn't the best boat for transporting materials. This is the insulation, sound insulation for the engine bay. It's pretty expensive, to be honest with you, so I decided to go with this stuff because it is fireproof, waterproof, all that kind of good stuff. But I figure I'd buy 4 pieces, install all of it, see how far I get, and then sort of extrapolate from there and buy the correct amount to finish the job. If I accelerate, I slide backwards. That doesn't work. Alright, underway again, slowly but surely. Padley just called to say his pontoon's sinking. Let's go have a look what's going on. What's happening, Pedals?
I've just got all this fresh water in here.
Fresh water?
Yeah, I think it's fresh.
Yeah, right.
It kind of happened after the big storms.
It is pretty fresh, isn't it?
And it's like, I think this concrete, which is pivoting the hinge,
to stop it.
it's gone forward and the water's sat on there. And this was a make-do one.
Clearly.
And it just filled up.
So you need one of those gusher pumps?
Or a small bilge pump.
I think I have both at home. I might have a gusher pump on the trawler.
Is that a hand pump?
Yeah, yeah.
Eddie!
What do you think of your haircut? You lost your curls.
Eddie, no, you can't have that.
Come on, the sun's setting. We're hungry.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's not going to fit.
Oh shit. Get in there.
Oh, it is. Oh, well. Yeah. Put it on its side.
Like that.
Like that. As close as you can get, I think. That negative, other way. Yeah, maybe. There we go. Look at that.
It's quite a bit in there.
Should we put it back in like that?
Oh yeah, that's cold.
Does that work better?
Yeah. That was what it was doing in this one.
Oh, there we go. I'll use my foot to do my one job.
Thank you.
Another problem solved.
I need a beer.
You want a beer? All right, hang on.
You don't have to get me one. Sorry.
No. I'll do anything for you, Dave. You know that.
Thank you.
Well, within limits.
Oh, hang on.
Not gonna work. There we go.
How do that?
Ratchet. No? There we go, beautiful. All right, I'll just go over to the pub and get you a beer.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, where are the eggs? Oh, there. There you go, pedals. Oh, jeez. Leave it open it for you. Some of it is actually flowing back into the beer.
That's my beer.
Oh, sorry. It's fresh.
It looks fresh, doesn't it?
Now you can say it's spiced beer.
Yeah.
Beer with a little bit of Hawkesbury.
So dramatically up?
Yeah, it's definitely coming up. It's up. It's higher than it's obviously been sitting for a while now.
Yeah.
No, look at, they should be saying.
Oh, one last sidetrack too. Yesterday I took the blower for the Detroit diesel up to the workshop to start pulling it apart, getting it cleaned up, repainted, new seals, all that kind of stuff. And when I was doing that, I had a lucky find, so I'll show you that as well. So this is how you get things around Dangar Island, even heavy things like Detroit diesel blowers. Just taking this down to the waterfront, then I'll go get the boat. The fine tradition of barnacle scraping. All right, just gonna walk along the foreshore to the boat now. This way is a little bit hard to get a lot of the time, but at low tide you can do it. Saves walking up over the top of the island again. That's pretty cool. This is the scabbard for the knife that's on the dash of the trawler. So there we go, reunited after being lost at sea. Pays to walk the waterfront every now and then. Seen better days, but might give it a bit of a soak and fresh, and then put the knife back in it, then leave that in the sun with the knife in it, might take the curl out of it, etc. Alright, enough sidetracks. I'll show you, I've got these 4 sheets of insulation. I'm going to start by experimenting with the lid to the engine bay, because I can just turn it up, it's going to be the easiest thing to work with. We'll see how it goes, then I'll take the rest below deck. I was going to do the battery monitor first, but this insulation's in the way. I'm worried it's just going to end up in the water, so like I said with other materials, I've always regretted it when I bought it too early. So let's just get in and use it before something happens to it and we trip over it, you know. It has a foil on one side, quite a high density foam, and then a peel off backing and its own adhesive on it. It's waterproof and it's fireproof. This is reasonably expensive, this stuff. It's about $130 a sheet, so it's a lot. But when I picked up cheaper stuff, this weighs like twice as much, so obviously it's going to do a better job when it comes to deadening sound. Okay, 920 millimeters is the width of the hatch, which hopefully will give us enough of an offcut to make up the gap where the length doesn't quite reach. I'm going to give this a good wipe, I guess just a bit of an acetone wipe or something to give it the best chance of sticking to the paint here. Alright, the offcut's going to fill, you know, the bulk of the gap, so we'll cut this to length, mark it, cut it, and that'll do for the hatch, I think. Now, there's a special tape you get for these gaps. I put this over a bit because I won't tape here, but I will tape over that gap, so I moved it over. It's not a big enough gap to be worth cutting a whole piece for it. I'd rather just use the offcut, given the expense of it. That tape, though, is quite expensive too. Apparently a roll of it's like $200, but you can buy it by the metre. So the guy at the shop at Whitworth's I got it from, quite wisely said, look, do it all, then just measure how many linear metres of gap you've got, buy the exact amount, tape it up. I think that's great advice. That's what I'm going to do. All right, down in the engine bay, the main panels I want to do are these panels here above the waterline. Well, I say above the waterline. The waterline's probably about here, but we'll just do a panel all the way up, and then across the deck head here. I won't do the forward wall, that just goes into the forward accommodation, so that's fine. And I will start on this side though, because this side's much harder to access. So if I do this, I can always do the other side after the engine's in. Planning to do it all with the engine out, obviously, heaps of room at the moment, but I figure do the hard to get to side first. So what I'm going to do is I'll measure the distance between the ribs. I'm presuming it's uniform. Then I'll just measure the heights up so I can cut all the pieces in one hit and then come down here. All right, I just did a little bit of touch-up painting in the engine bay where I'd missed a few bits, so I'm going to let that dry before I start putting insulation on top. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is here, I haven't been able to close the engine bay for a while. I've had a bilge pump hose coming up and out, just overboard like this, out through a scupper, and I've had the wires from the solar cell coming down. In order to close the engine hatch, I need to get rid of 2 bilge pump pipes and the wire. One bilge pump I'm going to run out the side just below the sponson with a standard skin fitting like this. This is a pretty generic acetal above the waterline skin fitting. The other, I'm going to install a bit of bent pipe that comes up through the deck and then goes out through the bulwark relatively high up. I want to do that for a couple of reasons. One is I just want to experiment with that technique. It means that you don't have any way... Sorry, it is very windy today. Hope that's not coming through the mic too much. One is that you know, it doesn't have a hole in the hull close to the waterline. The hole in the hull is sealed entirely with welded metal, and then it comes up through the bulwark, you know, 2 or 3 feet above the waterline. The issue there is it takes the pump more strength to lift the water that height. You know, maybe it's an issue, maybe it's not. I am going to do a traditional outlet on the other pump. I've got 2 pumps in there on 2 totally separate battery banks, but I figure, you know, I'll try both techniques. I was a little bit worried until I had a close look then, because I have those doublers, which is the bits of steel that are welded on the top of the hull. People often ask me what's a doubler, and all it really is if a hull either needs some protection because nets are running over it, or it's corroded and you want to fix it, rather than cutting it out and putting a new sheet in, which is kind of the better way to go, to be honest with you, people just weld another sheet over the top. The downside to that is you can't see what's happening between the 2 sheets of metal over time. You really need to remove them periodically and check. Down the track, when I got more time and money and maybe the boat's due for a bit of a refresh, I will actually cut those off, put new steel right into the hull and not have them at all. Before we do that, something I'm going to show you as well is viewer Ben really kindly sent me some of these proper engraved labels for all the electrics. So thanks heaps, Ben, that's really nice of you. Look at this, we've got them for everything. So that's really nice, thank you. Definitely a major upgrade over those sticky labels that A, weren't going to last, and B, don't look very professional, so this is going to look pretty swanky, thank you. I will put those on soon, but in the meantime, let's get in and have a look where we're going to put this regular acetal skin fitting. Alright, so this line here is where the doubler ends, and we're going to put the skin fitting up here. So it's probably, you know, over a foot away from the waterline. Alright, here's the chine of the boat on the starboard side, and this is where the doubler starts. It comes just above the chine actually. There's the rubbing strip here, little rubbing strip I replaced. Then the doubler starts very quickly above that. Then this weld mark here is the top of the doubler. Then we've got a big chunk of hull here we can drill through. And then this weld mark here is the bottom of the sponson, then up here is the deck. So I want to drill somewhere just below the start of the sponson. I just checked and that skim fitting I have is too big for the bilge pump hose I've got, so I'm going to have to order a new one, so we'll leave that for now. I'm not going to drill the hole until I've got the right size. So what I'm going to do is weld in a pipe that goes from the engine bay to up above the sponson and discharges it there. We'll see how it goes. I'll test it. If it works, I'll install others for other pumps and the raw water. If we have issues, we'll rethink it. This is the bit of pipe I'm going to use. So, I've got a slight issue in that originally I was looking to get some full 90-degree bends, or some 90-degree bends. This actually goes beyond 9 degrees, which means that I could then have a round hole going through the hull. Where this pipe is bent is not going to be round anymore, which means if I drill a hole in the bulwark here and try and weld around it, it's not going to be ideal. It'd be great to have the plasma cutter. I could just actually trace the shape, cut it out, blah blah blah, but we know that's not working at the moment. Then the other side I'm going to have protrude through the hull by about 10 millimeters. Now normally with this kind of fitting too, you would probably clamp around the outside. My plan is to actually put the bilge pump hose up through the pipe, have it come all the way out the end here, and then put a washer on the inside and a rivet or something to stop it being pulled back in. I've already test fitted it and there's quite a bit of resistance. It's actually quite hard to push through. I don't have any real concern about it being dragged back in, but better safe than sorry. Alright, plonk him on the seat and I'll grab him from the back. Yeah, right, okay.
So yeah, aim tonight.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Enjoy.
See you, Jeffo.
Probably will.
Yeah. I'll let you know when the Coopers has landed. Nothing like a quick crab delivery. All right, where were we? What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this pipe here where it started to be perfectly round again after the bend's finished. The reality is it's going to come through the bulwark somewhere here where it's not perfectly round. So we'll see. We can either fill the gap with weld, or I'll drill it smaller and then try and grind out the edges to get the shape. All right, got the angle grinder plugged into the inverter at the moment, so I'm just going to cut it a little bit after where it's gone fully round again. Part of me wants to cut it at this angle to stop, you know, extra water coming in, but I think it's going to be pretty good, so I think I'll just cut it at a very slight angle. The inverter certainly has no trouble with the angle grinder, that's for sure. It's running well. The bilge pumps are at the forward side of the compartment, so I think I'll put the pipe forward here just to stop running the hose too diagonal. So I need to find the center of the pipe as it is at its highest point and then drop it down a smidge so that the pipe actually penetrates through the deck. So I think that's where I want the center of a hole through. What I now need to figure out is where I want to put this hole through the deck. Obviously this can come out more, but I reckon I want the hole about where the edge is now. I would say about here's ideal. I might need to hit this in with a hammer, get it to drop down, whatever, that's fine. Here, I think's enough of a gap, even though the pipe is squished because of the bend. I think with the stick welding we can fill that gap with the rod, no dramas at all. Okay, down into the engine bay. So, hole overboard, hole down into the engine bay. What I'm going to do is get the flap disc in here before I put the pipe in. I'll clean the gal off here so we can weld it without, you know, poisoning ourselves, and clean the paint off both sides of here. I'll have to take it up a little bit so that we're not filling a huge gap. Just split the difference. Down there's fine because the pipe is still round down there. Bigger issues here just because of the curve in the pipe where it's squashed slightly. And then out here we're just going to throw the water overboard, hopefully clear the sponsons so we don't do too much, you know, rust and rot and damage like that, but pretty happy with that. Also, it's a very strong pipe, so you can tie ropes to it, you know, lash stuff to it, whatever. It's not fragile in any way. I've marked the point here where the pipe is parallel to the bulwark, so we'll grind the gal off here, grind it off down the bottom here, and then tack it in place. Bolt off. Oh, might let it cool down a bit. So I can finally move this hatch around without risking cutting that wire again for the solar cells. All I need to do is unplug this Anderson plug from the Red Arc charger here, feed it back through. Then my plan is to get up on the wheelhouse and run it down through the air intake for the engine. Alright, just pull it up through the hatch. There's my repair from when I cut it. Get up on the wheelhouse in the wind and see how easy it is to get the grill off the front of the scoop. Okay, should have brought a screwdriver. Looks like it's crimped on, we can probably pry it off with a screwdriver. Get it in, and then just have the wire going under there. Oh, I really need to make a ladder down, that'd be nice. Let's just see if we can pry it off under here. Oh yeah, that's gonna be nice and easy, I think. Done. Alright. Let's drag the old cable up. Alright, there we go, done. Here's the wire back down through the air intake, push it back through the old wet exhaust hole, plug it back into the solar charger. Done. Alright, how's it going? So, flashing green on the left says that the solar's connected and it's charging, and the solid green on the right says that the battery is healthy but not full. When the green here is flashing on battery, it means battery full. battery full is the sort of thing I'd expect to see maybe towards the end of the day. So it's relatively early still, and the fridge has been running all night, etc. So now it's time to catch up from that current draw. So these are my bilge pump hoses. This one can have more of the hose pulled up through the deck there. I've got to redo the paint there before I put the insulation on so it doesn't rust under the insulation. It's just burnt from the welding. Probably worth mentioning, this hose is quite good quality hose. I've used this for many, many years. It's a really kind of soft rubber. It's not that brittle sort of stuff, so it's quite flexible. It's almost got a silicone feel to it. Very smooth inside. It's not corrugated inside, so you don't get the resistance of corrugations on the inside, stopping the water flowing. And there's no metal or anything in it. This spiral is actually just a thicker part of the moulding. It's all just moulded from the same type of plastic, whatever it's made out of. And I've had this out in the sun, in UV, all sorts of things, and it's never let me down at all. Really, really happy with this hose. We used to buy this by the 50-metre roll at the workshop, and yeah, it's good stuff. I'll see if I can find a link to it. Yeah, I'm sure I can. I'll find a link and I'll let you know what it is. I do have this one welded into the deck. I've got the hose coming quite a bit out now. There's plenty of spare hose. I will eventually cut it properly or whatever. Haven't welded the outside yet. See a little hole in there still, so I'll fill the outside with weld, paint it up. But, sorry, get out of the wind. I know it's noisy in the camera. But we can now close this for the first time in a long time, so let's do that. What else we need to talk about? Oh, I did put a new battery in the put some Velcro on the bottom too. So I did put a new battery in the clock and still no luck with it. Just hangs on by a hook and has Velcro so it doesn't fipe around. I do really like these though, and you can still buy them. Plastimo is the brand, make a lot of boating stuff. So I think it's worth replacing. What I also do have though, because we're going to be doing the wreck hunting and everything, I thought we need some little homage to Bob Ballard, have a little shrine or a little, you know, portrait sort of thing. So I went and got one for the boat. There we go. Cheers, Bob. Well, thanks for watching. A few sidetracks, but we've got a few things done this week, which is nice. Engine's coming back soon, as you know from the Q&A video, so that's nice. But in the meantime, I'll definitely still get on and just keep finishing the electrics. Particularly, I'm going to make a new timber panel for the dash here, because the other one had all sorts of holes and things that I'm not using, and we'll get that battery monitoring. All right, well, take care, and I'll catch you then. See ya.